Hi, I'm Sandy Almendares, Senior Content Director for Supply Side, Natural Products Insider, and Food and Beverage Insider. We want to thank all of you for continuing to work with us over the past year during the pandemic. It truly has changed how our industry does business in the United States and worldwide. By now, a lot of us are used to working in empty offices.
Or working from home, which has its unique challenges.
We may have adapted, but we are ready to get back to some sense of normality, including in-person live trade shows. We here at Informa are excited to let you know that some of your favorite events are just around the corner. We start with a pop-up event in my hometown, beautiful downtown Phoenix, Arizona, on June 11th at the Hyatt Regency. Go to the link below to register, and don't forget to dust off your comfy shoes. Later in the summer, Supply Side East is back in Secaucus, New Jersey, August 24th and 25th. Registration opens soon, so stay tuned. And finally, Vegas is open again, and that means Supply Side West is too. Education starts October 25th, and we open the Expo Hall doors on the 27th and 28th. Come to network, showcase your product or ingredient, and engage in your community face-to-face, at an appropriate social distance, of course. All of these events will have protocols and procedures in place to ensure that you, your team, and all of us stay as safe as possible. But that isn't all. Our Supply Side Network 365 always-on virtual platform will continue to bring you content so you can participate in the community even when you're not attending an in-person event. Thousands of industry leaders and colleagues are already there, along with networking opportunities, a resource of ingredients and services, and plenty of education and industry events. Speaking of which, I'm happy to announce that my friend and colleague Todd Runstead is launching a brand new weekly industry show on Supply Side Network 365. It's happening right now, so catch up, stay informed, and be entertained with Insider in the Afternoon. Take it away, Todd.
Thank you, Sandy. Really appreciate that. Sandy Almendares, people. I'm your host, Todd Runstead, Senior Editor here at naturalproductsinsider.com, and welcome to the very first episode of Insider in the Afternoon. That's right, we are here in the afternoon. We are high noon on the left coast. Ow! That's right. When I think left coast, I think Southern California, I think Anaheim, I think Natural Products Expo West. I think of the 40 contract manufacturers in the LA basin. I think, Alchemist Labs, Jarrow Formulas, Imagine Nutrition, Nature Aid. I think Tom Arts. I think Nutrition Business Journal. Yo, NBJ Summit. That's happening in person there. Go to nbjsummit.com and you can register. There's a little qualification process. They don't take just any riffraff with a couple of bucks in their pocket. Oh, no. Hey, speaking of Southern California, that to me is one of the 5 capitals of the supplement business in America. And so you see right there where there's the chat button. This is a quiz and the winner gets a free door prize. What are the other 4 supplement natural products capitals of this country? Southern California, one of them. What are the other 4? We'll get back to that at the end of the show today. See, we're all about audience participation. We are meeting you where you are. You might not be in your office. I'm not in mine. I'm in my home office. Look, I'm wearing my pajamas. Don't worry, Mom. They're just my day pajamas. I wear a different pair at night. So, I'm calling right from here at the Hacienda in Boulder, Colorado, the capital of the alternative universe. Boulder, for a little hamlet of only 100,000 people, actually, at last count, was responsible for $4 billion in annual natural product sales. I mean, we are talking Celestial Seasonings. We're talking Horizon Organic Dairy. We are talking, even Danone is just outside of town. I don't know if that counts as being part of Boulder. White Wave originally was founded in Boulder. All kinds of stuff there. It's 2 p.m. in Central Time Zone. Hello, Austin, Texas, wherever you are. Mark Blumenthal, I hope you're in on this call. American Botanical Council is just a fine thing. I also, when I think of 2 p.m. on the Central Time Zone, I think Breadbasket. And when I think Breadbasket, I think ADM, I think Cargill, I think McCormick Place. Raise your hand if you love the view of the inland sea of Lake Michigan from the IFT show. That's pretty cool, right? And then it's 3 p.m. there on the East Coast. When I think East Coast, I think Jersey. Yo, I think PLT Health Solutions, Falconer, think. Paul Flowerman, one of the most beautiful people in the business. He's one of those business leaders that we are going to feature on the show, not today, but soon. Don't you worry. And, these are just insiders who will tell you wisdom, who will tell you knowledge, who will tell you information, who will tell you tips on how to survive and thrive in the dietary supplements business. Here's a dietary supplements bottle, but look, see on the back, see how there's a QR code there. We are here to tell you, as an insider, not just what's on the box, not just what's on the label, but what is inside. What's inside the box? What's inside the bottle? What's inside the little capsule in there? We are here with education, innovation, inspiration, ideation, and a little entertainment. That's right. We're not beyond entertainment here. We'll do anything for a laugh. Okay, so today we are going to start this show in the great unifying principle of the last year. What could it be? What is the thing that unified all businesses that really was, really shook up the market? What shook up everyone personally, professionally, businessly? I know, it's COVID-19. Well, of course it is. COVID-19, lots of opportunities for immunity supplements, lots of opportunities for stress, for sleep, for anxiety, and also COVID-19 is now known as the COVID-19, like the freshman 15, the COVID-19, because everyone's just sitting around the house gaining weight. There's going to be a boom in weight management possibilities out there. You know it, I know it. We are here to tell you information about how you can capitalize on this new trend. And on the show today, we are going to have Holly Johnson from the American Herbal Products Association, who's going to talk about elderberry. And we're also going to talk to Tim Avila, Systems Bioscience. We are going to get deep on the concept of not just vaccinating, but nutritionating. I think that's a word. Is that a Scrabble word? Yeah, it's a Scrabble word. All right, so without any further ado, let's take it away, Holly, and let's tell us something we don't already know.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Todd. And I'm so happy to be here on this Insider Show with you today. Again, I'm Holly Johnson. I'm the Chief Science Officer for the American Herbal Products Association, and so pleased to talk with you guys about elderberry. Obviously, in this year of COVID, elderberry and certainly our immune systems have been top of mind. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of history about elderberry. It's got all kinds of historical lore and for its magic and powers. Basically, the tree has been revered as a magical one, and many, many legends exist. It was found as far as 2,000 years before the Common Era, so over about 4,000 years ago at a Neolithic site in Switzerland. So we think it's been in cultivation for many, many years. It used to be so revered that it was prohibited to use it for firewood or to use it for furniture. The young stems were used for wind instruments. It's got this like soft little pithy part of the young stems that you can push out and get these kind of tubes that are used as flutes and other wind instruments, also for blowguns and even for things like tapping maple syrup. So very versatile plant from ethnobotanical history. And also one of the cooler things actually is vampires. There's these legends about vampires that they must stop and obsessively count things, are OCD vampires. And so if you put big bunches of elderberries by your doors and windows, vampires couldn't get in because they obsessively had to count these giant bunches of berries. Also, you guys know of the elder wand from recent times in Harry Potter's film and the Harry Potter series of films. The Elder Wand, I guess I was actually just corrected, it was Dumbledore's wand. But anyway, made from the elder tree, which was known to have great powers. So some other stuff about elderberry we can talk about. There's actually two species that are called elder. And it's elderberry, which has become really popular as an immune support herb recently, but also in history. But also the flowers are used. So you can see here in this picture, there's a really pretty flower of some inflorescences on the elder tree. And so the parts are mostly the fruit and flower, although like I said, the twigs and some other things were used throughout history. The ancient Greeks and Romans were really the first ones to mention the medicinal uses of elderberry. And this goes back through all the ancient medicinal texts. Almost all the famous ones mention elderberry, including Hippocrates, Theophrastus, Dioscorides, all through the first couple centuries of the Common Era. It was also known elders attached to one of the 22 characters in Ogham, an ancient alphabet used to write Old English or Old Irish and other Brittonic languages. This was around the 3rd century CE. So again, this tree has been really important for a really long time. Charlemagne in around the 700s CE decreed elder to be planted throughout his kingdom. And it even appears in plays by William Shakespeare and such. Elderberry appears in all of the kind of famous European herbals, including Gerard, Culpeper. And in 1664, there was even an entire book dedicated to the beautiful medicinal properties of elder. So there's also some other historical traditional uses you can see on this slide here. There was another species that was used by Native Americans. So it not only has a rich history in Greek and Roman medicines and throughout Europe, but also in Native American ethnobotany and medicinal uses. Quite a lot of modern research as well, you guys, and I know you've heard about elderberry throughout the pandemic and really in terms of its immune supporting properties. So the traditional uses included things that had to do with coughs and colds, things of that nature. But there's a really, really good systematic review. And again, there's so many papers that I can't even go into them all with you, but there is quite a lot of research, some of it in vivo, some of it in vitro, some clinical trials, really nice Cochrane systematic review from 2021 here. And another piece I cite here that kind of goes into all the medicinal attributes, not just the immune function. Modern day immune research, pretty much going back to 2012. So this is quite some time. This isn't just in the pandemic times. 50 to 80 studies annually each year on elderberry and its immune supporting properties. Everything from supporting air travelers to all the way to in not getting cough and colds, all the way to just reducing the duration of respiratory illness. And finally, we'll close with some elderberry products here. They come in a variety of dosage forms, and again, really modern, marketed in the modern world for immune support, for health, supporting a healthy immune system. And you can see, you guys have probably heard, it's made into a syrup with a little bit of sugar, but also all kinds of other dosage forms like gummies, teas, and capsules. So again, one of our favorite plants here in the times of immunity, and that's my little summary on elderberry. Aloha.
Holly, aloha back at you, sister. Man, I just learned something new. Harry Potter, who knew? That was really great. Thank you for that. And now the next bit on our show here, we got Josh Long, the estimable Josh Long. Wow, what's on the web? Take it away, Josh.
Hey, Todd. Well, there's a lot going on in the natural products industry in the last week. So why don't we start in Sacramento? You mentioned California earlier this morning. One of the Judiciary Committee and the California State Assembly recently voted 8-3 to pass a bill that would prohibit dietary weight loss supplements from being sold to minors. APA testified in opposition to the bill. NPA testified in opposition to the bill, but of course, those arguments didn't resonate with lawmakers. They voted 8-3. Now it moves on to the Appropriations Committee. I think the expectation is they're going to vote to pass it as well, and then there'd be a vote on the floor of the Assembly. So that's something we need to watch because there's other states in the country, including Massachusetts, that are looking at similar bills. So if California were to pass this bill, it could have huge implications for the rest of the country, especially in left-leaning states. Let's move on to the U.S. Supreme Court. They recently issued an opinion that really limits the authority of the Federal Trade Commission to seek monetary damages in federal court through their so-called Section 13B authority. The reason it's important is because the chairperson of the FTC, the acting chairperson, said, with this ruling, the FTC has the Supreme Court has deprived the FTC of the strongest tool we had to help consumers when they need it most. So bottom line, the FTC was dealt a major blow. Maybe that's good news for supplement companies because the agency is going to have a harder time. It's going to be a longer road for them to get monetary damages out of supplement companies. who are allegedly engaging in deceptive practices under the FTC Act. They're going to have to go through an administrative process. Bottom line, it's a longer process. They can't just go right to federal court and request damages. So that's something we need to continue to watch. A congressman, actually, Representative Tony Cardenas, has introduced a bill that would give the FTC authority to go straight to court again and get those damages. But in the meantime, the FTC was dealt a major, major blow. Moving on to the Food and Drug Administration, several sources told me recently that Amazon, the behemoth retailer, has started removing products containing NAC or N-acetylcysteine. Todd, correct me if I pronounce that wrong. But several sources said that the Amazon has started removing those products. If you recall, last year in several warning letters, the agency, the FDA, had said that that product cannot be dietary supplements because it was first studied as a drug first approved as a drug, in 1963. That created a huge uproar in the industry because this product has been on the market in supplements for many, many, many years. So we're going to continue to follow that story. It's the industry's pushing back against the FDA. Perhaps the next step is litigation. We'll keep a close watch on it, and we'll turn back to you, Todd. Thanks.
Josh Long, everybody. Now that was excellent. I love hearing about Josh and his insider insights into the world at large. Speaking of insider insights into the world at large, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to Tim Avila from Systems Bioscience. Now, Tim, I have known him for 20 years now, I think. And every time I talk to him, I go away learning something a little more. And I'm really pleased to have him on our show here for the very first episode of Insider in the Afternoon. And we're going to keep continuing down this path of the theme of COVID. Now, well, first, Tim, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well, Todd. Thanks for having me on the show. Excited.
Cool. Yeah, me too. So, when I think COVID, those of us in the nutrition industry, there's this thing that what we've learned about this year, there's one interesting new word, comorbidity. And a comorbidity, it means like other diseases make the one disease worse. And so in the case of COVID here, if you have a comorbidity like obesity or diabetes or cardiovascular disease, you're probably going to suffer a worse outcome, right? And so America, we're at the top of the list of worst COVID outcomes. We're also kind of at the top of the list of all of these, diabetes, cardio disease, and things like that. I mean, is COVID really revealing? Is it telling us something about the health of Americans?
It absolutely is, Todd, in very tragic, high impact ways. And I think that you and I have discussed this, that it's not only a virus, but it's also a litmus test. And it's revealing how sick, not just United States population is, but around the world, because there's so many of these predispositions and micronutrient deficiencies, other things that play a role and are major factors. So yeah, it's revealing a lot and it's not good.
Yeah, well, and so, it's illegal for supplements to say that they can prevent, cure, and treat any disease. But around the world, there's lots of studies on nutrients and COVID. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of these studies are showing us?
Yeah, I mean, if you take one of the most interesting ones, vitamin D, if you look at zinc, magnesium, some of the other things, vitamin C in a little bit of a different way than maybe most people think. But there's been a review published just late last month talking about micronutrition, micronutrients in COVID. And so they did a nice job of characterizing the literature as to where these micronutrients become depleted when you have a significant immune challenge, but specific to COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 infection. So I think, we're seeing that there are, a lot of studies and references in the literature. This is just not our intuition, although that can play a significant role. It makes sense. Some of the studies that we've seen lately from Institute for Systems Biology, they published a paper where they looked at a wide range of COVID-19 patients, and they documented metabolic and nutrient depletion and almost starvation. They called it metabolic resource starvation. So this is a really intensive infection, and it highlights the absence or the insufficiency or deficiency or inefficiency of our previous nutrition. So it's really creating a window into what we are from a nutrition and systems biology standpoint.
So Tim, that's really interesting. And I want to seize on that because, some of the naysayers might say that, well, COVID is merely just causing nutrient deficiencies, or is it that pre-existing nutrient deficiencies are making COVID worse? Can you tease through that and tell us what the reality is?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you look at the studies just on nutrition in general, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal today talking about teen nutrition, particularly girls. And, the deficiencies and insufficiencies are staggering just because of poor diet. So things like calcium, magnesium, sodium even. When you look at the way our diets are, most people feel like, well, we have way too much sodium, but actually we need 4 to 5 grams of sodium per day. Sodium chloride may not be the most efficient way to get that. And obviously we don't want to get it from fast food or processed food, but we have, such a need for these common everyday minerals and elemental nutritional factors.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So we've got when we talk micronutrition, we're talking vitamins and minerals, right? And then you got macronutrition, which is, protein, carbs, and fat. And so that macro is really that is leading to a lot of these comorbidities, right? Just like the lousy American diet making us just fat and diabetic and, heart attacks and all that stuff. Go us, right? And then the micronutrients, we're seeing all these different nutrient deficiencies from vitamin D, zinc, as you pointed out, things like that. And then there's also phytonutrition, right? We should be eating more plants. Can you let's dig into those 3 concepts a little more: macro, micro, and phyto.
Yeah, sure. If you look at the macro, we're all aware of metabolic disease. It's common to all Western populations and even in other emerging countries. So if you look at India or Mexico, even in various Asian countries, China, this overconsumption of freely available glucose or carbohydrates or sugar consumption, and that creates 2 very specific phenomena, and that is hyperinsulinemia, so too much insulin, but also hyperleptin. So hyperleptinemia, there was a nice paper by Frank Greenway and one of his students at Pennington Biomedical Labs talking about all the ways that having too high of a circulating leptin level will impact immunity, and particularly for things that would impact respiratory diseases. So, we're looking at society, how many people are hyperinsulinemic? It's, rampant. Some would say 80% of the US population. How many are hyperleptinemic? We don't know. I have a number off the top of my head, but I would say could be easily half that number of insulin, maybe more. So these are very, very deep, specific mediators that are disturbed in the metabolic syndrome that we see so prevalent, not only in the US, but around the world, and growing. The problem is getting worse and worse.
Now, is the problem getting worse and worse around the world because America is doing such a fabulous job in exporting our lousy diets to the rest of the world, or what?
I think that's part of it. I think also that, people are changing because of stress and toxicity and all types of other confounding factors in the exposome or the experiences and the exposures that we have. We're seeing, this happen. And so I think carbohydrates, grains, these things are considered large staples within most diets, depending on what's available for a given population. So carbohydrates are a dominant source of food, and some of those can be very, ineffective carbohydrates, or they're getting too much. And then obviously fast food has been exported to many places around the world. So that's really causing a problem on the macro level. Then when you look at the micro level, we see soil depletion and all the usual characteristics, leading to a loss of the micronutrients. And then phytonutrients, people just not getting enough, vegetables and fruits in their diet. We see that that's very commonplace, and we know how that's happening, not just in the United States, but in lots of other places around the world. So on all three levels, you create predisposition to not dealing with an infection like this or a virus like this. And that's kind of looking at it from a terrain theory perspective. Many people have focused, and rightly so, on SARS-CoV-2 as a virus. That's the germ part of the landscape. But the terrain part, the terrain theory is, how are you going to be able to withstand any types of viruses, bacteria, fungal infections? You talked about comorbidities. One of the things that's really interesting is that co-infections, where you've been dysbiosis in the gut, or dealing with fungal or yeast infections, other infections. Many of the successful protocols used in hospitals and at home have dealt with these other co-infections, which are also causing a problem. And so nutrition can play a role in establishing those or dealing with those ahead of time before an infectious threat like SARS-CoV-2.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And I mean, we're leading up to the last question, which we're not going to get to yet, but I'm so very excited. So for all of you sitting there at home, just wait, because can't you just feel the flow of this conversation? I mean, how many factors are there at play? Like it's easy for us as kind of in the nutrition biz to point out, the nutrition, the micro and the macro and the phyto, but there's more than that at work too. It's sort of like how are humans evolving here in the 21st century? And COVID is kind of like, it's a big demerit on our report card. It's like, you're not actually nailing it so much, right? I mean,
and I think that's at the heart of the difficulty in responding. So if you look at governmental and public health response, I think they're stymied by the lack of systems biology awareness and understanding. And so, there's hundreds of factors at play. Every time you look at new research that's published, we understand a new corresponding system within the body, or some sort of receptor that's found, the behavior of the immune system. The Institute for Systems Biology paper described, many variations in the immunotype of people and how they reacted, and whether that was mild disease to moderate disease to severe disease. And so we need to take all of these factors into account.
It seems that to some degree, consumers have sort of figured out that at least immune support supplements, it's like, there's this bad illness, sweeping the world. I should get, that. And so I guess I have two questions on that. Is one, do you think there's going to be a sort of a divergence or an add-on to that, well, it's not just about immune health, but it's sort of our overall vitality. But also, do you think that the immune supplement boom will continue? The sentiment will remain as vaccines roll out?
Yeah, I think that's going to wane a little bit. That's just kind of human nature. And I think the opportunity that we have as an industry to help people, we need to be careful that the window doesn't close or the door doesn't close too rapidly in terms of looking at lifestyle, health, and wellness. And so I think nutrition is a big part of that. We need to be able to help people that while we're having tremendous momentum and impetus to vaccinate, that we need to have a similar message with equal power and resource to nutritionate. Work on the terrain. Yeah, let's nutritionate.
Did I just hear a new word there? Comorbidity. We have a new word here in the context of vaccinate, nutritionate. Tim,
I think we need to support that. We need to support that with real effort and dollars and enthusiasm, because the messages to vaccinate are powerful. We see them everywhere, but we don't see, the impetus and the voice to take care of our terrain by using nutrition. So we need to do that.
The terrain. I love that. So we only got a couple more minutes. So I want to talk about long COVID, because long COVID is a thing, and some of the hallmarks of it are fatigue, brain fog. These are issues that there are no answers for in the allopathic Western model, right? But there sure are in the naturopathic. It's like, chronic fatigue syndrome. We have things like that can help people, brain fog, that sort of thing. Is there an answer for that, for long COVID?
Todd, that's a complicated question. And the mainstream medicine, of course, is struggling to address it or deal with it right now. But I would say that those practitioners in our industry that use nutritional medicine have been encountering these types of things for a long time, either with other infections, whether they're bacterial or viral. And you have a very similar pattern, right? You have a very similar molecule of disturbance, and that those things can be addressed. So chronic inflammation, which causes fatigue. How is the mitochondria working? How do we optimize and resuscitate mitochondria? And how do we deal with chronic low-grade inflammation? The good news is we have a big toolbox for that with nutritional medicine and functional medicine.
Yeah, I've been talking about mitochondrial supplements for a long time, and inflammation. I mean, I think that's what has brought curcumin to the fore. So, Tim, we only got about 30 seconds here, but here's the last question. I mean, 2020, it is said, has really accelerated our thinking, in so many ways. Can you think of innovations that the supplement business or the larger nutrition industry that might not have arisen quite so quickly were it not for COVID? Let's talk about how the acceleration of innovations. What do you see out there on the horizon?
Todd, I think it's even much more fundamental or basic than that. And that is that we really didn't have a lot of inventory of key bioactives and other raw materials. And so a just-in-time inventory approach has to be directed more to a just-in-case supply chain preparedness. And that's going to be where we shift away from countries like India and China and being totally dependent on them for certain bioactives or for the majority of our ingredients, and making sure that technology, innovative ways of production can be done in the Western Hemisphere and in other places where we can have access to not only new ingredients, but to lots of the existing materials and nutrients that we need to keep everyone healthy.
That's cool. That's a really good message. Tim Avila, thanks for joining us today. I just want to point out again, Nutritionate. I wanted to remind everyone of the terrain. I think that's really important. Tim, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. And that's a wrap for today's show. Thanks for joining us on the first edition of Insider in the Afternoon. Wait, I know that you were chatting, and the answer to the quiz, Southern California, one of the key capitals of dietary supplements in the country. Number 2, Salt Lake City, of course. That's the big network marketing, the MLM capital of the world out there. I'm going with Boulder, baby. Not quite so much on supplements, but so much of the natural products business out there that we got to give that a shot. Jersey, all those fine chemical companies in Jersey. And finally, for the last one, maybe Florida, maybe New England, all the Salem witch trials and, the herbal industry and like all that stuff out there. We can talk about it over drinks when next we meet. And when next we will meet is next Wednesday here at Insider in the Afternoon. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again.